I was the president of our student body, and one of my jobs was to go through all the archives and organize. So I know that name.
She graduated in 1976.
I think she graduated with Dr. Larry Fall, who is our dean of affairs, outreach affairs.
But her master and PhD degree were from Dr. Ivan Fact. Ivan Fact. Of course, the OD degrees is different.
Back then, yeah. Well, there aren't that many women back then, so that's why that name. So the patients, which they've known in the last 13 years that I'm always doing the lead, that I'm like John, always picking up some other project, some other role, right? So they always ask me, oh, what are you doing now? What are you saving in, Costa Rica? Because I would go on trips to save the turtles in Costa Rica or do a medical mission. And
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's really welcome that we get this opportunity and can invite Jennifer come to Taiwanese community and give us her message, how she's going to run for the assembly and represent and voice for our community. So before we start, let us give her a warm welcome. Okay.
So good morning, everybody. I think it's still morning. It might be noon.
Still morning.
Good noon. Happy Thursday, as somebody says. So welcome and thank you for joining us. Please feel free to come forward and sit up front. I know as I was talking to John, my voice tends to not carry very loudly. You might know I'm an optometrist. And as an optometrist, and you remember this, Mr. Lin, yes, one or two, but you're testing someone's eyes in one room, just the two of you, in the dark. So the last thing you want to do is to be a very loud person, okay? So when people have asked me, Jan, you need to project your voice, be loud, and I said, that's not my nature. It's, but I will be loud when it becomes a problem that I need to address, that is for our community, that is to voice out what I'm passionate about, to defend what our needs are in the community. So again, my name is Jennifer Ong. I've met most of you, I believe, and I am an optometrist for the last 16 years. I graduated from UC Berkeley, and I never would have had such a successful, I think, history in the United States, in California, if it wasn't for all the opportunities that you have given to my family and I, indirectly and directly. When we came here from the Philippines, this is a story I know that you are familiar with. In your lifetime, in your parents' lifetime, my mother and my father were college graduates in the Philippines. My mom was an accountant for a government service insurance system, and my dad managed businesses in the Philippines, our family businesses. He was the second out of 10 children. He is from the Ong family, Hokkien, in South China. Unfortunately, my grandfather, when we came to the Philippines in a very tough economic times, back then, the notion was that most of the Chinese there were a good business person and that they're probably wealthy, and there was word that he probably had gold bullions hidden in their home. So they were held hostage their family when they were little. The 10th child, was an infant at the time, and the oldest was in college, hoping to go to medical school. And they held the family hostage. My grandfather tried to get help and slipped out of the window and was shot in front of their family. So being that my dad was the oldest male and the second in the family, his job was to continue the businesses. My grandmother had no training in business, but she grew the businesses. She was a strong woman. We had a grocery store, the Ong's grocery store in the province in the Philippines. We had plantations that she would manage and grow. She just did it because she had to, and she's a strong woman. And meanwhile, they selected one child out of the 10 who would then learn how to speak Chinese, Fujian, and learn the culture. But this child had to go to, my uncle had to go to another province several hours away and go to the school there and live with my grandfather's sister's family and learn our Chinese history and our culture, our family on the Chinese side through that. So when you ask me about our history, I always have to check in with my tito, which means uncle in Tagalog, Tito Boy. That's his nickname, Samuel Ong. And he was the selected son to do that. So my Chinese side is still strong, and that's so important because that's really what America is about, right? United States of America. We just talked about this. And every single one of us at some point will have integrated families. Families that are not purely Chinese or purely Filipino or purely Spanish. My mom is half Spanish and half Filipino. And so this is what I celebrate about America. To be able to have 2 college graduated, successful parents sacrifice, come back here, start all over again. We lived in 1 bedroom, all 7 of us, a grandmother and a newborn baby brother. And my mom sold hot dogs at the Oakland Coliseum, and my dad was a grocer at Lucky's. It was hard, but they made it. They put 4 kids through college. And I always feel sad because they didn't have to do that. But they knew in the Philippines, politics, martial law was happening. And thank you, and it's not safe. It wasn't safe. We had people who would threaten to kidnap their children, my brothers and sisters and I. It wasn't safe. And so to come to this country, and it's not perfect. Our democratic process is not perfect, but it's better. It's the best that I know of. And so when I became active 25 years ago in politics, it was because my optometric association said to us, if you care about your career, because in other countries optometrists don't exist. You either have an ophthalmologist or an optician, a person who grinds glasses or a person who does the testing and all the medication and surgery. But in America, we have optometrists that can cover both types of practice. And so we have enough to serve the people. So my job was to go in the last 25 years to Washington, D.C., to Sacramento. Every year they'd send me to meet with the local legislators and talk to them about how important it was to understand what it is to be a healthcare provider, to have access to healthcare. Because you can have the best job, the best education, but if you don't have good health or access to healthcare, then that doesn't matter. So I've always worked in the last 25 years on getting accessible, affordable health care for all. Because giving dignity to the lives of others, just because they can't afford it, it doesn't mean they don't deserve it. So after that, many of the legislators would talk to me and say, you know, you should step up someday. You know, you're a leader in your profession. I was a trustee for the California Optometric Association, and we actually, if you ever look in the restaurant and there's a nutritional menu where it says how many calories your food is and how much fat is in it, that was a bill that I had worked on. That was Senate Bill 120. It was a bill that said if you have a restaurant chain that is 10 restaurants or more, you must post information about the nutritional information of that food that you're serving. That way people can make better decisions and you can reduce diabetes, hypertension. And so it was our Optometric Association and the Diabetes Society had co-sponsored that bill. So that was in 2009. I've worked on many bills, and so all the legislators and the community leaders said, you know, you actually have skills, specific skills on how to make state legislation, how to create it, how to help pass it. You should someday step up and become a leader. And you know what else? We have 120 senators and assembly members in California, but only 24% of them are women. And so we need more women because that equity, that equal representation allows for a voice that's more balanced. Also, you're Filipino American. Do you know that no one that's Filipino has ever served in the California State Assembly? And so you would be the first Filipino American to serve in the California Assembly. So I don't have family obligations. My parents said to us when I was growing up, when you get married, you only do it one time. It's serious. You work hard at it and you make it work. And then you have children, and that's for a lifetime. So and then they said, so make sure you study hard, go to college, get a good job. And I said, boy, those three, I can do that. But the getting married and having children, that sounds really hard. That's why they scared me. So I was in charge of taking care of all the other children in the family, and I will share with you, I always say that if you have children that take care of other children in your family, that is the best birth control to have for your children. It really helps them understand that having a child is not just like having a doll. It's not just something cute, it's a responsibility. You have to make sure this child could be the next president of the United States. You have to share everything. So I said I will step up. You don't have to ask again. Betty Yee was one of those people. She is she was the chairwoman even of the Board of Equalization of California. Assembly member, our Speaker Pro Tem Fiona Ma, she was another person that said, Jen, you need to step up. We need you. I'm going to be terming out. Somebody has to continue the work. And so that's actually why I had founded the Hepatitis B Free campaign for Alameda County. Because as you know, 1 out of 10 Asians have hepatitis B, and in the general population, it's 1 in 1,000. We pass it from mother to child. In Asia, usually 40% have hepatitis B. You don't know you have it until you're really sick and it's too late to do anything about it. And yet, every time I go to do a lecture, I ask people, how many people have heard about HIV or AIDS? You know, and everybody raises their hand. And then I ask about hepatitis B. 1 out of 30 might raise their hand. And it's 100 times more infectious than AIDS or HIV. And we have a vaccine to prevent it, to end it, right? We don't have that for HIV or AIDS. And so I am out here to also always share that message. If you have someone you love who is Asian, who maybe works in a community that's highly Asian population or is an intimate relationship with an Asian, they need to make sure they're tested for hepatitis.